Welcome back to Swindon Station. So this week what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an additional turnout point from the refuel siding onto this line here, which will then allow everything to sort of flow through to the maintenance shed and beyond. And obviously it gives a second line going from here all the way along back onto the branch. I've been talking about it for a few weeks. Just wasn't decided what to do, what would be the best sort of case. So what I've come up with is I'm going to add in an additional Y point here, put that to there, and then I'm going to add in a left-hand turnout to this track. And it should look something like that. So, without further ado, I'm going to crack on and get all this measured up and cut, and hopefully we'll see the result at the end. Bye for now. Connecting up your points, your Y points, if you're using electrofog, it's always handy to have the plaster isolator on. There's plenty of videos out there how to show you how to set up things for electrofog points if you're using DCC or Insulfrog. Insulfrog is basically like the Hornby sort of standard point, where it has a plastic coating on the Y join, and they tend to run alright, but they rely heavily on the fact that when the points cross over and they make contact with the inner or the outer rail, they rely heavily on those, and once they get dirty, they tend to cause a few problems. For this particular layout, most of my points are electrofog with a point motor system. However, on some of the stuff I got here, the sidings, where I know I'm not going to use them very often, I've used some of the Hornby stock points. I'm not overly fussed about the condition of them, sort of things, as they're going to be relatively clean, sort of thing. They're not going to be under heavy use. It's just something that I'm going to have to note for sort of future sort of runnings. So, without any further ado, I'm just going to put this Y point back in, and I've made a mark of where the hole needs to be. I'm just going to do a test fit. Once I'm happy, I'll go down and get a drill, and we'll drill that out so we can put the point motor underneath. So let's see how this goes. So the point's in, and we'll give it a test in a while. Obviously that matches the corresponding, as a isolator tab there, isolator tab here. So even though I'm doing DCC and this is a Hornby one, it's always nice to sort of try and keep them separate, especially when it's going on to an electrofog point, as you can see down here. Right, so without further ado, I'll go get the drill and we'll get that pilot hole put in. And whilst we're waiting for that, I'll go and have a cup of tea and I'll be back with you shortly. So I'm just measuring up this second crossover point, and I'm using a short radius electrofog left-hand turnout, and I'm just getting this lined up correctly, so when I cut the old line, I can slot this into place. So looking at having a relatively short gap and transition from there onto the new one. Apologies for the shadows, the lighting is not exactly brilliant in here. So without further ado, I'll get on with that one, get that marked up, cut, and then put into place. Okay, so what we managed to do is put in the second set point, and that again has got the fish plates and the isolating plates in place. Obviously they're just the normal joiners at the back here. So everything left to do now is to just bridge this gap. I'll make up a couple of rails now, put that in, and after that it'll be a case of just drilling the pilot holes for the 2-point motors to go underneath, and we'll have them wired up. Okay. Right, so the 2 crossover points are now in place, and the frog cables that go from just in that gap there, there's one soldered there and there's one soldered into there. They drop down, and they'll be linked up into the point motor as and when we install them. But for this one here, I've installed the first one because I had a couple spare, so that's all been rigged in underneath, and obviously there's plenty of room for that rod, and it's nice and straight. And if we take you underneath the board, you should be able to see. So there we have the frog point, sorry, the point motor, and I've soldered obviously a set of wires off each into a terminal block, and as I mentioned, the frog point wiring has already been soldered and connected into the chop block. So that's pretty much ready now. I just need to sort out a couple of switches and bring the wiring underneath the baseboard and around to here and have that wired in. And obviously for this one as well, I decided to do them both together, so they're both ready to go and be installed. Unfortunately I've only got 2 switches left, so I'm going to do these 2 now, and then hopefully during the week when my stock gets delivered, I can carry on with the others and get all of them wired up too. So this one we're going to leave essentially until the items are delivered, but for today at least we're going to try and get this one wired up and working, and we'll do this one as well because this is the main feed into the fuel depot and what will be the siding to the TMD area which is behind me. So I'll crack on with that and we'll get back to you in a bit once these are wired in. Okay, so wiring's in. This is this wire here. I'll just put this. It's a bit dark underneath here, so it's a bit difficult to see. So these 2 wires here will go to the switch on the panel on the other side, and then everything else is wired in as per the PM1 point motor diagram. So what I've done is I've wired in this switch because this is the main one that comes off the branch line, and as it's an electrofog, it would only work one way. So now that I've got this all wired, it doesn't matter which way I throw these, I'm able to put locos onto any track without any issues. So that one's wired in, and just to prove that my wiring is good, I'll set this down here. Hopefully I'll be able to get a decent shot of it moving for you. So I'll leave the camera there, and hopefully when I activate the point, that should move downwards. So there we go, and then back up, nice and smooth. So the black and red wire I was talking to you about, that was underneath there, that basically comes all the way around my layout along here and into here, which is at the moment my temporary switch box. It's just something so I can mount these switches basically, and this is the switch that I'm using. So as I said, the black, which was originally wired to the white wire on the point motor, and then obviously the red is wired to the red wire on the point motor, and then obviously you've got your common, which is the middle connection, and it's basically daisy chained to all the other switches that I got in here. It's not the best work in the world, I appreciate that, but this is actually a temporary box. An updated panel will be made at some point in the future, and all I'll do is I'll just one by one remove these out, reroute some of this wiring, which will probably go into this area here, and this will be a control switch, point switch motor area, but that's in the future. So if I take this away, just put this down, show you what at the moment my cover looks like. So that's essentially it at the moment. Obviously that's your 3-point motor on the other side, which leads into the yard, and that's the first point switch, and there'll be a further 3 or 4 going in to cover that area, so that'll be in this sort of box area here. And then these ones are related to those points just up the corner of where the trains are sat at the moment. The one in the middle actually, which is leading off platform 1, that's all live. Don't know if you can see that with the shading, but they're all working. And this one here relates to that one there, but that needs to be rewired. And obviously then I've got the other 2 switches, which will be that one and then that one over there, and I've got 2 more to throw in for this crossover. So there's a fair bit of work to do, but it is getting there slowly. So that's my overview. Obviously, as usual, when you're working, all the stuff gets in the way. But essentially, this is now the area where I'm sort of working on, just to get these point motors installed and get the crossovers working correctly. And at some point I can do a running session from the main line onto the branch, and then on obviously into the fuel depot and the TFD area. So without further ado, I'll carry on now and get this one wired in, and hopefully in a couple of days time I've ordered some new point motors and switches, etc. We can get the remainder, I think 4 I need for here. I'll get those installed, and we'll do a running session. So hope you enjoyed. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now. Throw the switch and bring it back just so we know it works on the other side in. Perfect. Bring that one back. And we'll put it back into the fuel depot. Bring the loco back, set it up, and hopefully this will go back into its siding. So this one here doesn't have an actual point motor underneath installed yet, because there's a bit of a batten underneath that's got in the way, so I need to remove that before I can install the point motor. So at the moment this is temporary wired, just to allow the current and everything to go through, and obviously for the frog to work. But essentially, take out 2 lines, put in your left hand and your right hand crossover, and wire them up for DCC. And there you go. Success. These 2 switches here, and obviously this is your three-way point motor switches, and that goes on to either to the siding, or bring it down and take it into the fuel depot. So there's a few more things to do, as you can see. When the replacement switches come in, we'll get those fitted, and hopefully then that layout will be up and running, and we'll be able to do a decent session on it. So for now, I'll just leave you with a quick video of the items going through the paces, and catch up again next time.